All right. We'll start with what is your name and what is your occupation?
I'm Susan McInerney, and I am a volunteer nurse at A Baby's Breath. I
Okay.
work specifically with the ultrasound service that we offer. I'm also an advocate at the Collegeville Center.
Okay. And for your ultrasound tech position, is that at Collegeville or is that?
So I'm not a technician.
Oh, sorry.
I'm the nurse manager, so to speak, and kind of help facilitate and organize our service between Collegeville and Warminster. But I am an advocate in Collegeville, so
Okay.
that's, yes.
And how long have you worked with the Baby's Breath?
So I've been here since March of 2011.
Ah, okay. So 13 years? Did that math
Is that
in my
right?
head?
13, going on 14, I guess.
Nice.
Yeah, and so it was because of the ultrasound, they were starting an ultrasound program. They were looking for nurses.
Okay.
And I was very interested in that. They were going to train us as nurses. That instruction fell through, and then we were looking for ways to get instruction in another area out in Las Vegas, and but that seemed a little bit too much. We finally came to the conclusion that having to train nurses to do the ultrasound would kind of be reinventing the wheel. You'd have to do training and then certification every year and things like that. So then we went towards volunteer technicians.
Okay.
So yeah.
So what is your day-to-day volunteer work like with the Baby's Breath? What position? What is your...
So weekly I'm at Collegeville as an advocate.
Yeah.
And I had, for 7.5 years, I held the crisis line. So then as being part of the ultrasound service, then it was easy to facilitate an ultrasound for someone who called, who
Okay.
was in crisis and needed an ultrasound. We now have another nurse holding the line for that, but we're in contact frequently. So now as an advocate, I'm there on Tuesdays, but when we need an ultrasound done, I'm usually notified, especially for Collegeville.
Okay.
So I have gone, and have gone between Collegeville and Warminster, because right now we're short a tech or two. We have a
Yeah.
technician who lives closest to Collegeville, but when we have some in Warminster, she and I carpool and go out there.
Okay. You mentioned you hold a cell phone, correct? Or
I
you
don't.
did.
I did. I held the
What
crisis
is-
line for A Baby's Breath.
What is the crisis line just so we can
Oh, okay.
better explain that to people who don't
Yeah.
know?
So the line is a loose 24 hours, 7 days a week. There's a volunteer holding the line, and through the years we've tried to get it narrowed down to really being truly a problem, a crisis, a client calling for help. There was a number of calls. People call about volunteering or about a center, or they push the wrong button and they think they're calling the Jeffersonville Center, but it's the nurse holding the line. So sometimes we have to weed those calls, but it's really there for a woman who is pregnant and doesn't know what to do, or needs resources, or we've had, a homeless situation, all kinds of things.
How often do you get those types of calls that are
So yeah.
serious?
So yeah, I'd say there's a couple a month. I haven't. Jane, who holds the phone now, we haven't really discussed that. Although just a couple days ago, we do have a true crisis client, and unfortunately, we're able to schedule her ultrasound for this coming Tuesday. So
Praise God.
we work as fast as we can. We call it, we coordinate schedules of the technician and the nurse. Warminster does have a nurse that helps, but this particular one I'll be at because our technician is out of town, so we're using a new technician.
Okay. And how does your background as a nurse help you see pro-life, and how does it help you communicate to clients, what it means to choose life?
Well,
Do you have a medical understanding to that can
yes.
help them understand it more? Or
So I guess as medical, having been trained in biology and understanding, the beginning of life, where that is helpful, especially during the ultrasound. Especially when there's questions, sometimes it may be a little too early. Or sometimes we're trying to figure out just how far along the client is before we even do the ultrasound, because we're doing limited ultrasounds. They're done between 6 and 14 weeks gestation. So it's 6 weeks from your first day of the last menstrual period. So sometimes girls don't know. Sometimes there's just different things that they don't really know how far along they are. So we do a little bit of that, figuring it out with them in various ways. And so then sometimes there's questions during the ultrasound. We might, it may not be seeing anything yet, but they have a positive test. So as a nurse, to be able to say, well, your dates could be off, or sometimes it's this, or sometimes it's that. Yeah.
I mean, recently went through having a child, and I found out you couldn't see the child until up to 6 weeks.
Right.
And even then, it's very small.
Like a grain of rice.
Do you have people coming in that early, 6 weeks?
We do.
You do? Okay.
But ideally, like it's awesome to see it. Like 8 weeks, you can really see that body. Like you can identify the little arms and they're moving. But yes, we do. And our technician, Linda, is wonderful. She has 40 years experience with maternal fetal medicine. She's been through a lot. She's so good with our clients. We've been able to, she's just great. And, we've had situations where there've been ectopic pregnancies, specifically 2 Augusts ago. And she just as a technician, a good technician should know certain things to look for when you're not finding an intrauterine pregnancy. And so
I'm glad you brought up ectopic pregnancy, because one of the criticisms of pro-life nowadays is that abortion means you're killing the life regardless, but ectopic pregnancy kind of falls outside of those Venn diagrams of choosing life and choosing abortion.
Like the term, as we were trained in school, like spontaneous abortion. So there's like a medical term, spontaneous abortion. Well, that's a miscarriage. It's not the abortion that we know is, coming in, intentionally ending the life of a child to end the pregnancy because for whatever reason they name. But the ectopic is then that beginning of life is in a spot where it can't continue growing without then causing harm and probably death to the mother.
Right. So the mother has to think of its own. The mother has to obviously try to live. And the child doesn't have a way to live.
Right. So that's really an emergency situation where you want to save the mother's life, because there's no way that child, unfortunately, sadly, will not be able to grow and develop, or then the mother will die too.
What is the percentage of ectopic pregnancies? Would you know offhand?
I don't know offhand.
It's probably as common as, the other cases there. They say abortion is supposed to be rare in like 2% of rapes and 2% of
right.
a strange condition.
There's some conditions that could lend a woman maybe more susceptible to it. Perhaps they've had certain pelvic inflammatory disease, or if they've had an ectopic before, they may be more susceptible to have another, different things like that. But I don't know the numbers.
But if you are trying to still convince somebody about the benefit, the reason they should choose life and not to be afraid of these anomalies of happening, what do you tell your clients as an advocate? Why is it still right to choose life when there's less? These are obviously a rare occurrence in things.
Why is it? So we know that, and it's scientifically proven life begins at conception.
Yeah.
There's, and so at what point is that not a human? How can you say? It always is, and just different stages of life. So why choose to continue a pregnancy? How are we going? As an advocate, I know I've had young women who were newly pregnant, didn't think that they could continue, but it's, it's never, it's something. Well, I would say I was concerned for the woman. If she chose to end that pregnancy, how would she feel? How would she feeling guilt, feeling not knowing what could have been? But
Do they ever have thoughts of what would it be like after going through with it? Or is it always
we go through
after going through an abortion? Do they ever think about that?
That's what I tried to tell, to try to relate to them, that we care about you. We care about you and your baby, but I also care about you if you were to choose that. I just know there's so many women who are tormented by that. And it may not be right away. It may be a little while later, but it's definitely causes. It's a wound.
A wound that takes a lifetime to heal.
Sure. Yes.
So
we've seen that. We've seen women with tremendous guilt, and not able to forgive themselves, and to go over and over again.
Post-abortive women, you saying?
Post-abortive women, yes.
Are they repeat clients by any chance?
I don't know. I just am recalling one that when I held the cell phone, she was pregnant again and had an abortion and felt so guilty about it. She did continue that pregnancy, but she had to go through so many things just to feel forgiven, going to a priest and going a couple times in confession.
Wow.
So
good for her for confessing
but
it.
Tormenting, yeah.
Does faith help you at all with your advocate position or your nursing position? Does it guide you in any way?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Of course, that's why you're here.
Absolutely. We're coming some days, sometimes it's a little bit, there's stress involved in dealing with some clients sometimes, or some things are hard at times, not just with the ultrasound or with a pregnant client, with a client who is in need, and it's heartbreaking and it's stressful and all those things. And I'm like, God, do you really want me here? Is this where I'm to be? I'm getting a little bit tired or burned out or something, but I'll get that answer when I'm the only one in the center and it's 12:32. Our hour is 12:30, and I answer the phone call, and it's a woman who's pregnant, has a child, and is in an abusive situation. So those are the times that I know God has put me where I am, and that this is what He wants me to do.
So God's validation is more work for people that need it.
Yeah, that's right. Like, if I wasn't there, who was there? Who would have been there at that particular Tuesday afternoon, right? Yeah.
That's a good way of thinking of it. If I wasn't there, who else?
Yeah. So that keeps me going, that it's all for the glory of God. And I believe that this is where He wants me right now. Yeah.
Good. Last question I'll ask you. If you were trying to train somebody else to take over your position, train them up to do what you do, what's one bit of advice you could tell them, whether it's how to be an advocate or how to be on the phone?
I do believe that the advocate training that we offer is terrific, and it's really important to have that, to be able to hold the phone, to be able to do the ultrasound, because you're coming across those scenarios in those two positions, on the phone or in the ultrasound. And there's a lot of good, it's Sister Paula's tapes that we have advocates watch, and sometimes I want to rewatch them. We have a book that goes with. I look through that book sometimes to speak in the way that she does. I wish I could speak like she did, but just affirming women and loving them, and So I'm kind of forgetting the question now. So what advice would I give them? Definitely, you need the advocate training. That's my strong encouragement for anybody who's going to hold the phone or anybody who's going to do ultrasound. Definitely.
For anyone that wants to be in a pro-life organization, you think advocate training, training someone?
Well, yeah, I think so. I think you need to be realistic. There's some realistic scenarios in there. There are women, there's a percentage of women, they say, that just will not ever choose life. You know, it's just, and to expect that there's times that there's some women that are very hard and will not choose life. But knowing how to love others and to listen and to relay your interest and love for them and wanting the best for them. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you very much for your time.
You. Sure.
And appreciate you sitting down, answering some questions for me.
Okay.
It's been very nice. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Have a
Take
good
care.
day.